People love to say New Orleans is stuck in the past. And look, I get it. We've got the history, the architecture, the traditions, and we're proud of every bit of it. But right now, there's more construction money flowing into this riverfront than at any point in decades. And most people outside of this city have no idea it's happening. I'm Margaret, born and raised right here in New Orleans, and I've been a realtor in this market long enough to know when something real is unfolding. Today, we're talking about the River District and the creative economy boom. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly where the job, the housing, and the real estate upside are. The River District, what actually is being built. So let's start with the land itself, because the geography here is everything. Picture roughly 39 to 40 acres of riverfront property sitting right next to the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center, wedged between the Warehouse District, the Lower Garden District, and the Mississippi River. For years, this land has been largely dormant, underused, disconnected, invisible to most New Orleanians, despite some of the most strategically positioned real estate in the entire Gulf South. The river is right here. The convention center is right there. The Warehouse District is steps away, and yet for decades there was nothing connecting them in a meaningful way. That's the gap the River District is designed to fill. The official vision is what developers call work, play, stay. Housing, restaurants, retail, entertainment, hotels, offices, and genuine public riverfront access all woven into one connected district. Not a convention annex, not a tourist zone, a real neighborhood where people live, work, and spend their daily lives. Now, this isn't going up all at once. The project is rolling out in phases, and understanding the timeline matters if you're thinking about this from an investment angle. The early phase is all about infrastructure, utilities, roads, the riverfront promenade, and critically the office tower. These are the bones. Nothing else works without them. The mid-phase is when the district starts to feel inhabited. First, residential buildings, ground floor retail, the everyday texture of a neighborhood taking shape. The later phases are what you see in the renderings, the hotels, entertainment venues, the full riverfront park experience. That's the finished picture. But when you're building toward it in stages, not waking up to it tomorrow. On the housing side, the plan calls for about 900 mixed income units, with roughly 450 of those priced at workforce and affordable levels. Rivanna Apartments is expected to be one of the first residential pieces to break ground, with construction anticipated in 2026 and a completion target around June 2028 for the initial phase. The workforce pricing isn't just a feel-good detail. It means the people who work in the restaurants, the retail, and the offices can actually afford to live in the district. That's how you build a neighborhood instead of a set. And speaking of the office component, let's talk about the Shell Riverside Tower, because this is the piece that makes everything else viable. Shell is putting a regional office here, expected to finish by 2027. Think what that means. A Fortune 500 company looked at this riverfront and decided it was worth a long-term bet. The one building puts hundreds of professional workers on this site 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Those are the people who stop for coffee in the morning, grab lunch, pick up dry cleaning, and become regulars at the neighborhood wine bar. Daytime population is what separates a real neighborhood from a weekend destination. And the Shell Tower delivers exactly that, within walking distance of 900 housing units. Mayor Helena Moreno has been vocal about this too. Her administration's River District Reset named the 900-unit residential target and the affordable housing mandate as non-negotiable. That matters. When City Hall is actively pushing a project forward, not just approving a developer's paperwork, it signals that permitting, infrastructure support, and political will are aligned. For anyone considering a purchase or an investment near this corridor, that alignment is worth paying attention to. There's also the public riverfront piece, a promenade and park space designed to give New Orleanians actual access to the Mississippi, which is honestly a little ironic because most locals don't spend much time on the river despite living on one of the great waterways in the world. That changes here. I want to be straight with you though. Right now, this is still more promise than place. Master plan districts take years to feel real. Early movers are betting on momentum, not finished charm. So let's talk about what that momentum actually means for the neighborhoods surrounding it. The real estate ripple, where the upside lives. So that's what's going up. Now let's talk about what it means for the streets and properties surrounding it. There's a pattern that plays out every time a major infrastructure investment lands in a city. Values in the surrounding neighborhoods start moving before the project is finished, sometimes before it's even started in any visible way. Buyers who understand what's coming price it in early. Everyone else catches up later, usually at a higher number. That pattern is already starting to play out here, and the window is still open. Start at the River District boundary and move outward. The Warehouse District is the closest established neighborhood to the project. It's already the most expensive area on this side of the city, and for good reason. The architecture, the walkability, the restaurant scene, the proximity to everything. But here's the thing, those condos are priced for the Warehouse District as it exists today, not for what's being built directly next door. That gap between current pricing and future context is exactly where attentive buyers are finding opportunity right now. If you can hold for 5 to 7 years, the neighborhood next door is going to look very different, and so will your equity. Move a little further out and you hit the Lower Garden District, historic housing stock, walkable streets, a price point that still has real room to move. The planned pedestrian infrastructure connecting it to the River District isn't finished yet, but the geography is already there. These blocks are closer to the riverfront than most buyers realize, and they're not priced like it. Then there's the Irish Channel edge and the St. Thomas corridor. This is where I'd tell a serious investor to pay close attention right now. These blocks are priced as if they exist in a completely separate market from the riverfront. But look at a map. They're not separate at all. The separation is psychological, not geographic. That's exactly the kind of pricing gap that closes as a project moves from renderings into reality. What you're looking for specifically, condos and rental properties near the convention center and riverfront that haven't adjusted for the River District yet. A lot of sellers still don't think of it as real. They're pricing based on what the neighborhood is, not what's being built 2 blocks away. That disconnect is your opportunity. Now, I want to be honest about the friction because it's real. Living adjacent to an active construction site for 3 to 5 years is not a small thing. Traffic patterns change, parking gets complicated, noise is a daily reality. Stormwater and flood considerations don't disappear just because a development is going up. If anything, due diligence on elevation and drainage becomes more important, not less. These aren't reasons to walk away, but they are reasons to go in with clear eyes. The bigger question every investor needs to sit with is this: does the River District become a genuinely lived-in neighborhood? Groceries, cafes, dog walkers, school drop-offs, daily foot traffic, or does it stay mostly convention adjacent and tourist facing? Because the answer to that question is the difference between a solid return and a generational one. My read, the upside here is real, but this is a 5 to 10 year story. The investors who regret it most are the ones who either wait too long to get in or expect it to move too fast once they do. Patience is the whole game. Whether you're watching this in 9 days or 90, feel free to reach out. All of our contact info is in the description. The business of culture. New Orleans' creative economy, but River District isn't the only engine running. There's a second story here that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and it's actually the one that makes the River District viable long term. New Orleans has always had culture. Nobody debates that. But there's a meaningful difference between a city with culture and a city with a culture industry. One is an identity, the other is an economy. And right now, New Orleans is crossing that line in a way that's creating real mid to upper income careers, the kind that require housing, generate tax revenue, and sustain neighborhoods. Let's start with the film and TV, because this one has a real comeback story. New Orleans had its Hollywood South moment in the early 2010s, and then Atlanta happened. Georgia's incentive program pulled a huge volume of production south, and Louisiana lost ground. That's the honest version of events. But in 2025, Louisiana passed SB 232 and Act 44, a full overhaul of the state's production tax incentive program. Credits went up 40%, approvals got faster, and the state gave itself real tools to compete for major studio deals again. And now in 2026, it's working. Productions that burned out on Atlanta's rising costs and overbooked stages are looking at New Orleans as a more cost-effective, more interesting alternative. And Film Louisiana is reporting a meaningful ramp-up in bookings for the back half of this year. What that means on the ground is a steady pipeline of production, jobs that don't evaporate when a convention wraps up. Camera operators, set designers, local scouts, catering crews, post-production editors, and writers and directors at the higher end. The support ecosystem around a single major production is bigger than most people realize, and it's concentrated in specific corridors: warehouse spaces near the river, office conversions in mid-city, crew housing in neighborhoods that are close to sets and affordable enough to make sense on a production budget. The culinary economy is the same story at a different scale. And in July 2026, New Orleans is hosting something that makes the point better than any statistic could. The Bocuse d'Or Americas, the most prestigious culinary competition in the Western Hemisphere, is coming to the Ernest Morial Convention Center on July 25th and 26th, running alongside the LRA Showcase. This is only the second time the Americas edition has ever been held, and New Orleans is the host city again. That's not a coincidence. It's a signal that the culinary world sees this city as a serious player, not just a fun destination. James Beard nominations aren't just awards. They're marketing events that bring national press attention, investment capital, and a specific kind of visitor who flies to New Orleans specifically just to eat, not just to party on Bourbon Street. When a New Orleans chef lands on a national shortlist, it moves money. It fills kitchens, it builds supplier relationships, it opens event spaces, and it creates real estate demand for the commercial and residential properties that support all of it. And then there's music, which goes deeper than the Jazz Fest. There's a growing ecosystem of recording studios, licensing deals, and live venue investment that supports full-time careers for musicians and the people who work around them. The licensing revenue alone, New Orleans music being placed in film scores, television, advertising, is money that flows back into the city on a recurring basis. That's not a one-time economic event. That's a revenue stream. So where is all of this landing on the ground? A few neighborhoods worth knowing. Broadmoor is one of the most underrated stories in this city right now. Creative economy workers, designers, educators, nonprofit lenders are choosing it for its central location and housing value. The Broadmoor Arts and Wellness Center is a genuine anchor institution, the kind of community investment that signals a neighborhood has real staying power. Gentilly is arguably the most interesting real estate opportunity in this city at this moment. Artists and musicians who get priced out of Bywater and Marigny over the last decade have been landing here. Larger lots, more affordable price points, and a growing sense of community identity. Gentilly Fest is a small event, but small events are exactly how neighborhood culture announces itself before the rest of the city catches on. The Bywater's transformation over the past decade is your comparison point. That's what Gentilly could look like in 10 years. For professionals considering a move here, this matters because these aren't service sector jobs at tourist wages. The creative economy is generating the kind of income that drives real housing, and that demand is reshaping neighborhoods that most outside investors still haven't found. Infrastructure and transportation, the connective tissue. Here's something most people miss when they look at a development like the River District. Real estate value doesn't just follow amenities, it follows access. A great neighborhood that's hard to get who stays undervalued. A modest neighborhood with excellent connectivity gets discovered fast. So the infrastructure investments running alongside these projects aren't background noise. They're the actual story for anyone trying to figure out which corridors win. The most immediate piece is the riverfront transit corridor. There are active conversations around dedicated transit connection along the river, linking the river district to the French Quarter, the warehouse district, and potentially the Bywater. Nothing is built yet, so I want to be clear about that. But if this connection gets built, it changes the commute and walkability calculus for the entire lower stretch of the city in one move. Properties that feel slightly disconnected, that's not a small shift. The Gulf Coast passenger rail conversation is worth tracking for a different reason. Restoring rail connecting New Orleans to Mobile, Biloxi, and eventually the broader Southeast corridor has been gaining real traction at the federal level. A rail-connected New Orleans repositions this city for remote workers and professionals who want genuine urban living without the density of a major metro. That's a specific buyer profile, and it's a growing one. Again, this isn't a done deal, but the fact that it's being discussed seriously at a federal level means it deserves a spot on your radar. Running parallel to all of this, the Ernest Morial Convention Center has its own expansion in motion. A larger, more modern facility means more convention booking, more hotel nights, and sustained demand for exactly the kind of restaurants, retail, and services the River District is being built to provide. The Convention Center and the River District are essentially co-investing in the same thesis, that this stretch of riverfront becomes a genuine year-round destination, not just a Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest story. And then there's the piece that matters most directly to buyers: storm water and resilience infrastructure. Flood risk is the first question anyone serious about New Orleans property has to answer. The city has been making real specific investments in green infrastructure and drainage improvements across several corridors. The Gentilly Resilience District is the clearest example. City-funded green stormwater infrastructure that directly affects property values and insurance calculations in a neighborhood we already talked about as one of the most interesting real estate opportunities in the city. These improvements don't eliminate risk, but they change the math in ways that are worth understanding before you buy. Taken individually, none of these infrastructure moves is a transformation. Taken together, they represent a coordinated commitment to the city's next chapter. And the professionals and investors who read that commitment early are the ones who move before the price reflects it. The Why River District Summary. The River District is the physical anchor. The creative economy is the workforce that fills it with life. The infrastructure is what connects it to the rest of the city. These three things are moving simultaneously, which is what makes this moment genuinely different from every New Orleans is on the rise headline of the past decade. So here's my direct take. Depending on where you're sitting, if you're a professional thinking about relocating, the job market here is more diversified than the city's reputation suggests, and housing entry costs are still realistic compared to Austin, Nashville, or Denver. The comparison won't hold forever. If you're an investor, the neighborhoods adjacent to the River District are priced for 2025, not 2030. That window is open right now. It won't stay open indefinitely. If you're a local who hasn't been following this closely, start following it. The professionals who move here in the next 3 years will look back at this moment the way early warehouse district buyers looked in the 1990s. Drop a comment telling us which piece of this you think has the biggest impact: the River District, the creative economy, or the infrastructure push. Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss a map tour and neighborhood breakdowns. So let's bring this home. The River District is the physical anchor. 39 acres of dormant riverfront getting rebuilt from the ground up to a neighborhood where people will live, work, and spend their daily lives. The Shell Tower puts professional workers on that site 5 days a week. The 900 housing units put residents there every other hour. Mayor Moreno's administration has put City Hall's credibility behind the timeline. None of that happened simultaneously in New Orleans in a very long long time. The creative economy is the workforce engine that fills that neighborhood with actual culture. Film production, culinary investment, music licensing, design studios, these aren't side gigs dressed up as economic strategy. They're producing mid to upper income earners who need places to live, and they're landing in neighborhoods that most investors still haven't priced correctly. Broadmoor, Gentilly, the Bywater before them. These are the before and after comparisons that reward people who pay attention early. And the infrastructure is what converts all of this from a collection of interesting projects into a connected city. Transit corridors, Gulf Coast rail conversations, convention center expansion, resilience investments in drainage and stormwater. Each one individually is a line item. Together they represent a city actively engineering the conditions for its own next chapter. Here's what I want you to take away. Depending on who you are, if you're a professional weighing a relocation decision, the honest truth is that New Orleans today offers something rare. A city with a growing, diversified job base, a housing market that's still accessible compared to every Sunbelt competitor, and a quality of life that no spreadsheet fully capped. The people moving here in the next 3 years are going to look back and wonder why they waited. If you're an investor, that's a pricing gap we talked about is real and it's still open. The Warehouse District, the Lower Garden District, the Irish Channel Edge, these neighborhoods are priced for today's context, not the 2030s. That window doesn't stay open once the Rivanna is finished. The Shell Tower is occupied and the first coffee shop opens on the riverfront promenade. By then, everyone will understand what this is. If you're already here and you've been watching this from the sidelines, now you know what's happening around you, and you can decide whether to move on it. We cover this city the way it deserves to be covered, neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, with the kind of detail that actually helps you make a decision. If this raised questions about a specific area, a specific property type, or whether any of this fits your timeline and budget, reach out. You can see my details in the description below. We love helping people make their move here, whether that's 9 days or 90. Drop a comment telling us which piece of this you think matters most, the River District, the creative economy, or the infrastructure. Hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell to stay tuned.